What's up, Epic Lifers? So in this video we are going to be talking about O2, not the phone company. We're not talking about mobile phones today. We're talking about air. We are talking about the 8 laws of health, one of which is air, and O2 is oxygen, in case you didn't know. So there are basic conditions needed in your body for you to live. There are basic conditions needed for you to heal and to survive. One of those is oxygen. People have gone 3 months without food, okay? Drinking water. You can survive that long. You can go about 3 days without having any water and probably be okay, all right? Oxygen, yeah. Your body goes without oxygen for more than 3 minutes, you're dead. Okay, there was a time in medieval times, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but it just came to mind, so I'm just going to say it. There was a time in medieval times, they used to actually put witches, okay, because back then they just burnt witches at the stake, all right? If someone was accused of being a witch, what they would do is they would put you in a cage, all right, that you couldn't escape, and then dip you down in water. If you died, it turns out, guess what? You weren't a witch, so it's okay, you were innocent. Sorry, our bad. Yeah, you're dead, but well. And if you lived, you were a witch, all right? They put you in there for about 3 minutes, by the way, okay? If you lived, you were a witch. And you know what they did? They just burnt you at the stake anyway. So it was one of those situations where if you were accused of being a witch in the UK and England a long time ago, you were dead either way. Yeah, thank God times have changed since then. I'm so glad I was not born in those times. But anyway, so that's how important oxygen is. So even well, unless you're a witch, okay, you need oxygen. And if you go without it for 3 minutes, you're dead. That's the point I'm basically trying to make. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is really how to actually make sure that your body is getting the most amount of oxygen that you need in your body. Because yes, oxygen is all around us. But sometimes the body's ability to use oxygen can actually be inhibited by the things that we are doing in our daily lives. So I want to talk about some things that are actually going to help you and also talk about some of the things that are going to inhibit. So what does oxygen actually do? Well, oxygen invigorates you. It vitalizes, it actually electrifies you. In fact, do you know what they do? In casinos in Las Vegas, they actually pump oxygen into the rooms, all right, so that people will actually stay awake longer, and because they're awake and they're not feeling sleepy, what do? They go back down to the tables and start gambling again, all right? Because they're not making any money off you if you're in there in the room. You know, there's only so much snacks that you're going to eat from the mini bar, which are really priced up very high. You know, $8 for some macadamia nuts or something. I haven't actually been to Vegas, but I'm assuming that that's what they probably charge for it. Probably more by now. I don't know. But anyway, that's what they do to get people down, because oxygen makes you feel awake and alive. And so, yeah, that's what they do. So oxygen also soothes your nerves as well. And in fact, some actually say that cancer cannot actually live in the presence of oxygen. Now, how does the body actually use oxygen? Well, the aerobic cell is what uses oxygen. Remember, I spoke earlier in another video, I think it was in the one about exercise, about aerobic. That's the part of the cell that uses oxygen to give energy and actually release 36 units of energy versus an anaerobic cell that releases 2 units of energy, and so aerobic cells therefore release 18 times more energy than anaerobic cells. Now, when you have a lack of oxygen, they call it hypoxia. When you have a lack of oxygen, that's when you start to feel really tired. And I'm not just talking about before going to bed, I'm talking about all the time. People are just feeling like, oh man, life is such a struggle. I just feel lethargic all day. Sometimes people feel a bit nauseous, all right? And that's because there's not enough oxygen in the stomach. Or people get headaches because there's not enough oxygen in the brain. So you need to be breathing deeper and making sure you're getting enough water, which gets oxygen to the brain. And sometimes if you're really lacking oxygen, sometimes people get into a kind of a state of euphoria and they're like, ooh, feeling a bit lightheaded here. So let's talk about some things that actually stop oxygen from getting into your body, the things that inhibit oxygen being used and uptaken into your body properly. So what stops it is positive ions, okay? So in this case, positive ions are bad and negative ions are good. We'll talk about negative ions a bit later, but positive ions in the air basically means that there's more CO2 than there is oxygen. CO2 is carbon dioxide. So there's more carbon dioxide in the air than there is oxygen. And so where do you find a lot of carbon dioxide? Well, people. Okay, being in a place where there are lots and lots and lots of people, we're all breathing out carbon dioxide. All right, now that doesn't mean you've got to stay away from people, but I'm just saying that that's one place that you find carbon dioxide. Cars, a lot of the fumes coming out, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, all of these things are actually reducing the quality of oxygen in the air. So it's good to get out into the country and breathe some good fresh air, right? So just in general, being in a city, being around smoke, being around cars, pollution, all these things actually inhibit oxygen. Now, heaters also can release a lot of carbon dioxide. Guess what else? Mold actually gives off a lot of carbon dioxide. So if you've got some mold, it's a good idea to clean it up. Also, tea and caffeine gives off carbon dioxide. Sugar gives off carbon dioxide. Medication prevent your ability to actually use oxygen in the body. And things like tight clothes, because your body is not able to get all the blood around the body properly if your clothes are too tight. So basically, how does oxygen get around the body? Well, it gets around through your red blood cells, all right? That's also why you need to make sure you get a lot of iron, because the iron helps the oxygen to attach to the red blood cell. The negative and positive charge attract each other. Otherwise, if you haven't got that, then it actually repels oxygen away. You don't want that happening. You want it to actually attract it in. So the red blood cells carry and release oxygen, all right, into the different areas of your body, right? It's actually a carrier. And so when you get around something toxic like carbon monoxide, okay, which comes out of car fumes, what it does is binds itself to the red blood cell, and it's like a very selfish kind of compound, and it stops oxygen getting to it. It makes it unable to react with any other element. And so that's why if you basically breathed in nothing but carbon monoxide, you'd be dead like very soon. In fact, any body part without oxygen dies, okay? So that's why you need it so badly. And so when you're dehydrated and you don't have enough water and oxygen, then the cells start to clump together. You get a whole bunch of cells clumping together, and so they can't actually pass through the arteries and in the capillaries, because there's parts of your body where only one cell can pass through at a time. And if you've got a big clump like that, it gets stuck. Right? You don't want that happening. So that's why you've got to make sure that you're actually getting the oxygen into your body properly, all right? Making sure you're hydrated in order for it to pass through one cell at a time and not have any problems. Okay, so now let's look at what actually boosts the amount of oxygen that gets into your body. You remember we talked about positive ions being bad and negative ions being good? So basically, when there are negative ions around, that means there's a lot of oxygen in the air. Now, you'll notice someone with arthritis will notice, okay, before a storm, sometimes their arthritis starts to get tight and it starts to hurt a bit. Well, that's because the carbon dioxide levels have gone up. There's a lot of positive charge in the air. There's more CO2 than there's oxygen. And so before a storm, you can kind of feel the air's a bit heavy. And then when the storm actually happens, the negative ions are released, right? And so there's a lot of moisture and there's movement in the air, and then the air just seems a little bit lighter, right? And so those people that have arthritis will start to notice that when the storm actually gets going, then they start to feel a bit of relief. Right? It's really interesting how negative ions have an effect on us, right? So thunderstorms, being near the sea, being around plants, also being around waterfalls because there's movement of water in the air, all right? All of these things help to improve the body's ability to uptake oxygen. Now, you want to know the number one way to get lots of oxygen into the body? We talked about it earlier. Exercise. HIIT training specifically. You start moving more, all right? The body is forced to breathe deeper, and it forces you to take in more oxygen. Also, drinking water helps the oxygen to get to the red blood cells and be carried around. Having good posture, okay? Because when you've got bad posture, your diaphragm is suppressed, so you're not breathing as deeply. If you're upright, then your body is breathing properly, and the diaphragm is helping your lungs to actually take in oxygen properly and larger volumes of it. Also, some other tips here. When you sleep, you want to keep your windows open. Keep that air circulating, all right? If you don't have your windows open, if you've ever walked out of a room that you were sleeping in all night and then walked back into it and then like, whoa, That's because of all the gas you've been passing out through the night. If you've got the windows open, you don't smell that, and the air is fresh because it's moving around. You are changing the air when you're sleeping. You're breathing out carbon dioxide, and if there's more than one of you in the room, then that's even more of a contribution. That's also why it's a good idea to have plants in the room. And so when you have the window open when you sleep, you'll find that when you wake up, you've actually got more energy. Also, another thing, keep your house clean, all right? Keep it clean. Keep it free from clutter, let the air be able to move around properly. If you keep it clean and dry, all right, get a lot of air coming in and the sunlight coming in, then it's basically going to be very difficult for mold to form, and mold gives off a lot of carbon monoxide, okay? And you do not want that. In fact, a lot of people have died. People get a lot of respiratory issues, and a lot of people have died because there's so much mold in their house, right? It's not a good thing. Another tip here, when you sleep, you sweat a lot, okay? And it gets into the mattress, okay? So ideally, if your bed has slats, like wooden slats, it lets that moisture come out, all right? Otherwise, what's happening in it is there's a lot of CO2 just getting up in the room just because of your mattress not being able to get the air out properly, okay? So maybe once a year or so, just put the mattress outside, let it air out. Okay, so that's it. Just make sure you're getting pure air, you know? Go outside, breathe in some good air, go to the country, you know, try it. If you live in a city, what I would suggest to you is get up early in the morning and breathe in deeply, because, you know, once everybody's up, the cars and the fumes are all going around. Yeah, just do it early as you can. Sometimes it's kind of annoying because you might be running around or whatever and then someone's smoking. It's amazing how first thing in the morning, right, you might see like a brand new Lexus or something just like going by, and then it just smells so bad and you're thinking, man, like that's a brand new car, like why is it smelling like that? Well, that's because when all the other fumes from the other cars first thing in the morning isn't around, even if a new car goes by, all right, you still smell that horrible smell of petrol that's being burnt. Yeah, not fun. Okay, so get out as early as possible if you can. Oxygen is essential to your body. You want to get as much of it as you can. Breathe in deep, exercise, all right? Make sure you're drinking a lot of water, and that way your body's gonna stay energized, you're gonna feel very invigorated, you'll have a lot of vitality, and just in general be in a good mood when you've got lots of energy coming into your body. Okay, so that's it from me today. Next Tuesday, we're gonna be diving into a little series within this series of nutrition. People are like, what should I eat? What shouldn't I eat? We're gonna really get into that and all the things that you need nutrition-wise to make your body work and operate at optimum. That's not one you're going to want to miss. So you definitely want to make sure that you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because we're going to be going through a little series that's going to really help you get the most out of your body. Okay, so this is Mr. O. I'm going to catch you next Tuesday. If you're going to live the epic life, and you're just one habit away. I'll see you next time.